They tell you it's the coffee. For decades, we've been sold a very specific story about wealth. It goes like this. If you stop buying that $5 latte every morning and invest the money instead, you will eventually become a millionaire. It's called the Latte Factor. The math looks perfect on paper. It feels logical. It feels controllable.
But if the math is so simple, why does cutting out coffee rarely make anyone rich? Today, we are going to deconstruct the psychology of small expenses versus big wins and find out if your morning habit is actually the problem or just a convenient distraction.
The Latte Factor myth. Meet Sarah. Sarah is 28. She works in marketing, pays her rent on time, and tries to be responsible. A few years ago, Sarah read a book that told her she was pissing away her future, one cup at a time. So, she stopped. No more iced coffees, no more avocado toast on Sundays. She bought a budget coffee maker and started meal prepping rice and beans. She felt virtuous. She felt disciplined. Every day, she saved her $5. At the end of the month, she sat down to check her savings account, expecting to see a surplus of cash. But the number barely moved. Why? Because while Sarah was obsessing over $5, her rent went up by $200. Her car needed new tires, and she still had student loans draining her account automatically. Sarah fell into a common trap. She was exerting 90% of her willpower to solve 5% of her financial problem. She felt restricted and poor, not because she lacked money, but because she had exhausted her decision-making energy on things that didn't matter. This brings us to a concept psychologists call cognitive load or decision fatigue. Every time you force yourself to resist a small pleasure, you use up a unit of willpower. It is a finite resource. When you spend all day fighting the urge to buy a coffee or a snack, you arrive home mentally exhausted. The Latte Factor myth relies on the idea of deprivation. It suggests that wealth is the result of extreme penny pinching, but in reality, wealth is usually the result of a few major structural decisions, not thousands of tiny daily sacrifices. By focusing on the small expenses, we experience what behavioral economists call bike shedding. It's the tendency to give disproportionate weight to trivial issues because they are easier to understand.
Understanding a mortgage interest rate is hard. Understanding a $5 saving on a sandwich is easy. So we obsess over the sandwich and we ignore the interest rate. We feel like we are doing finance, but we are really just spinning our wheels.
Let's look at this through a modern lens. The Latte Factor has evolved. Now it's the Netflix factor or the Uber Eats factor.
Yes, recurring subscriptions can add up, but let's look at the math of the big wins. Scenario A. You cut out coffee completely. You save roughly $150 a month. You are tired, grumpy, and feel deprived. Scenario B. You spend one weekend negotiating your car insurance, refinancing a high-interest loan, or moving to an apartment that is slightly cheaper. One big decision, like driving a used car instead of leasing a new one, saves more money in a single month than skipping lattes does in 6 months. And the best part? You only have to make that decision once.
This is the difference between being cheap and being frugal. Being cheap is trying to spend as little as possible on everything. Being frugal is prioritizing your spending on what you love and cutting costs mercilessly on the things you don't. If you love coffee, buy the coffee. That $5 is the price of a ritual that starts your day right. If you don't care about cars, don't buy a BMW. The goal isn't to stop spending. It's to stop spending on things that don't add value to your life.
So how do we fix this without falling into the trap of mindless consumption? We apply the 80-20 rule. Focus 80% of your energy on the 3 biggest numbers in your life. 1. Your housing. 2. Your transportation. 3. Your income. Increasing your income by 5% will do more for your financial future than cutting your spending by 5%. There is a limit to how much you can cut. You can only cut until you hit zero, but there is no theoretical limit to how much you can earn. Instead of worrying about the latte, worry about your skills. Worry about your career trajectory. Worry about your high-interest debt. Once the big wins are automated and taken care of, the small expenses stop mattering.
You can buy the latte. You just can't buy the latte and the new car and the expensive apartment and the designer clothes all at once. Pick your battles.
Money is not just math, it is psychology, it is behavior, and it is a tool for living a life you enjoy, not a life you endure. Don't let the guilt of small pleasures keep you from seeing the bigger picture. Automate the big stuff, enjoy the small stuff, and stop apologizing for your coffee. If you enjoyed this explanation, subscribe for more psychology-based money insights.